So, Boldy James is mean, and that's the biggest takeaway that I have from this album. Hey everyone, welcome to Unknown Reviews. I'm Dylan, and I talk music, movies, MBTI, and pretty much whatever else I feel like talking about. And today I'm going to be reviewing Fair Exchange No Robbery by Boldy James. Boldy James at this point is pretty much one of the headliner underground rappers. He kind of really came onto the map with The Price of Tea in China in 2020 with The Alchemist. It was all Alchemist produced, and it was just like an amazing piece of work. Really kind of one of the best, I think, underground, abstract rap, whatever you want to call this new genre of rap that's kind of been pioneered. He really made a name for himself with The Price of Tea in China in 2020 with The Alchemist. It's only been 2 years, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it became a classic in this new rap renaissance in the underground. This was just a really great project and really put him on the map. And then he dropped Bo Jackson, which was really good, really hard-hitting. And then he dropped what I think is his best album, which I think is not just a future classic album in the underground rap scene, but just a future classic rap album in general, Manger on McNichols. I think that was towards the tail end of 2020. It might have been in 2021, but it was just this emotional, powerful, raw, dark, heavy, dense, personal jazz rap album. It was just absolutely incredible. He'd been working on that project with the producer Sterling Tolles for like 10 years or 13 years or something like that. I mean, I think it's really Boldy's magnum opus. And then from that point on, I think he dropped a project with Real Bad Man called Real Bad Boldy. I didn't get a chance to listen to that one. This album, Fair Exchange No Robbery with Nicholas Craven, another underground producer heavyweight, it's ruthless. This album is ruthless. There is very little filler. Boldy is sounding sharper than ever, except for on a few songs, which I'll get to. But I mean, Boldy's rhymes on this are just particularly dark. Probably the darkest, I would say, since Manger on McNichols. And that's saying something because, I mean, some of the stuff on Bo Jackson was just crazy. And The Price of Tea of China too. But I mean, this album is just really solid from front to back. The production on this is so rich, and there's such a rich soundscape on it that I absolutely love. Clearly, Nicholas Craven has kind of carved his own lane in this soul chopping, sample looping era that's going on right now in the underground scene. And he's got some really interesting choices here. There's really kind of ornate samples being chosen with these big backing instrumentations. It's not just, I don't know, like a soul guitar being looped and like you throw a drum on it and maybe like a vocal sample. There's lots of things going on. 039 is one of the best examples of really kind of grand production, even though it's a sample. There's this really good sped up sample that's got a brisk drum beat on it. It's very quick moving, kind of feels like you're running or shuffling, and the violins are also kind of shuffling too. It's like these violin hits that are very quick in succession, but it never resonates. You're just constantly going with it. And there's like a harpsichord in the back on kind of like the left channel. And then in the right channel, there's this vocal sample, and everything kind of is playing off of each other. And there's all these kind of moving parts going around. It never stays still. It's never stagnant. And it's just a really layered soundscape for Boldy James and guest rapper Guwop to drop some... Guwop? Juwop? I don't know, okay? I'm just gonna call him Wop because I can't do Guwop. No. So anyways, Boldy and Wop are like spitting just absolute venom. Now everybody gangsta, heard they pushing P. Blank got his blank back, pushed he thought he took from me. Took him out the gang with the Drake like he pushed a T, which... that's just brilliant. I don't know what else. I mean, that is just the double entendre. That is just it's really good. There's another set of lines, which I'm just gonna show. I am not even gonna say them because that's just, wow. Yeah. So this, but they're going on it. Like they're really doing their thing. Boldy's really strong too, but I think that Wop really kind of steals the show with some of his lines, although at the same time, his delivery of them at times is kind of shaky. There's this one part where he said, and I like this line, it's in the chorus, he says, known in 50 states for moving weight across them state lines, but then he repeats it, and it's a different take, but he's like shouting it this time, but it just, it doesn't work. And then also like the mic quality in it, at a couple different times there was something going on in the back, and maybe I was imagining it, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I heard like a chain or some kind of like clanking in the back if you really listen like with some good headphones, and I don't think it was intentional. The mic quality between him and Boldy was like, it was a pretty significant difference. And just the volumes, the mixing on it was also like WAP's volumes, like his levels were like up here and Boldy's were like right here, and so it was kind of jarring, especially when WAP is like yelling that line again. But what he was saying was like really hard, so I mean, he kind of makes up for it. But yeah, 029, it's got one of the best beats and some of the most ruthless bars on this entire album, so they really brought it there. Going from there, I mean, this album is so solid, but I mean, you can really go to almost any song in this album and you're gonna find gems. Like Power Nap, I think everyone can pretty much agree that Power Nap is far and away the best song on this album. Probably one of the best rap songs of the year. Nicholas Craven samples this lullaby. The beat is pretty much just the lullaby and like some light drums, and I believe there's like one or two other like supplementary instruments in there, but it's pretty much just a lullaby. And it's so calming that like I've actually fallen asleep to this song once or twice because the beat is just that good. And it's just a genius idea to sample a lullaby for a song about putting people to sleep permanently. The lines on this, I don't even think I can pick out a line from Power Nap. Every single line is so good. There are so many quotables. I am just going to scroll the entire verse from Power Nap because, I mean, you can really just pick anyone. I think my favorite line's gotta be, get put under anesthesia for sleeping on me, get put in a permanent sleeper just for speaking on me. I'm like, what do you do with that information? Like, what are you supposed to say to that? Boldy is one of those rappers that it's not cute when he starts like talking hard. It's just like, wow, you really are not messing around. Especially with Boldy's delivery, which is so like deadpan. I read that, I just want to like apologize for listening to the song. Like, it's just Power Nap is just like, is a deadly track. Just analogies and metaphors all over about killing people, putting them to sleep in the most creative ways that you could possibly think of, all over this lullaby that is just literally the most like, it's one of the best beats I've heard in a minute. Like when I heard that, I was like, so that's why everyone's talking about this song. So yeah, I mean, Power Nap is insane. Six Toes is really good as well. It's definitely another one of my favorite beats on the album. It's really cinematic, and the way that these fast piano notes are interacting with each other is just, it sets this really, really cool stage. And the chorus is really great. I think it's got the best chorus on the album. Every once in a while, Boldy comes out with a really, really great chorus, and this is one of those songs. The song overall just has like a really great pace. It feels very cinematic as well. Like this whole album feels very cinematic, which the mood is so potent, and the soundscape. All of these songs complement each other so well. All of these songs just really build off of each other, interact with each other in a great way. One line off of Six Toes that I loved, but I also, it would have been even better. He said, I'm shooting like Chris Paul and the Clippers, which like, I'm a basketball fan, so I love basketball references, but I'm also like, Chris Paul on the Clippers? Why not use Crawford, you know? Because the actual line was, I got a quick trigger like Chris Paul and the Clippers. No, like Crawford would have worked way better. For like a quick trigger line, if you're gonna use someone on the Clippers, I would have used Crawford, because like all he did was get buckets. But I don't know, that's just me. I'm not the rapper. But yeah, Six Toes was great. And then you had Designer Drugs, which has a really great extended jazz rap sample. There's these sax going crazy in the back, but there's also, because Craven extends the sample out, the loop's got to be maybe like 5 or 6 seconds. You get to really feel the rhythm of whatever song it came from. And I always love that. You know, I know that sometimes people can get kind of iffy when samples get longer because they're like, you know, you're kind of just ripping from the song and just placing it on your own. You're not really interpolating it in an interesting way. You're kind of just like hopping on the original track. But I think it just brings such a different dimension, and you can really get a sense of what the actual song felt like, and you can contribute to it. Like Palm Olive is another one of my favorite longer samples. I think that too many times people just take like 2 or 3 seconds and just loop it, and they just catch like the tone and the vibe of the beat or the vibe of the song or the sample, but they don't actually really get into the rhythm and the emotion of the track. And this song I really loved because it was extended. Really kind of got to sit in the sample and the original song that it came from. And Boldy did his thing on it. That was great. Monterey Jack was another great track. It sounds like something right off of The Price of Tea in China. You've got these echoing piano notes in the back. Boldy's beat selection, anytime he uses pianos, it's pretty much game over because it just sounds so ominous. And then you've got these violins kind of creeping in the back with these slow drum rolls. It just really creates this really moody soundscape that I loved. And then he adds, the lyrics aren't up on Genius. I can't find the lyrics yet, and it's been a couple days. But he had something saying like he can't mess with pigs, gerbils, rats, or anything else. Like I thought that was clever. I mean, some really solid tracks on the back end here. Absolutely loved that. You Ain't No Menace was probably my least favorite in the back half. I don't know why he felt the need to drop an F-bomb. That just, I don't know. In 2022, that just feels like very unnecessary. But even outside of that, before that point, I thought the beat was like, it was all right. To me, it wasn't as dynamic as everything else happening around it. And by the time you get to when he drops the F-bomb, it just like, I don't know, it just totally took me out of the track. I was just like, why did he, like, is he trying to say, like, why? I don't understand, like, why? And it was in the chorus too, so I'm just like, why would you do that? But anyways, I mean, all things considered, for the back half of this album to only have one kind of like iffy song, that's pretty good. While we're on the topic of songs that didn't really work for me, this is in the first half of the album. I don't know, I just could not get into Scrabble. And it's one of the main singles of the album. The beat was way too minimalist for me, and the vocal samples, that's one thing I'll say, like, and I've kind of been focusing on the instrumentation, but I don't feel like the vocal samples were picked and chopped very well. They just kind of felt very like ham-handed, like just pick a random soul sample and just loop it wherever, and it doesn't really have any kind of point other than just to provide a soul sample backdrop other than the lullaby sample. I'm talking about like the soul samples in like Stuck in Traffic and Scrabble. I don't know, it just didn't really work for me. Like the melodies weren't really that compelling, and it was just chopped into kind of like a random place. Not the vocal samples always have to be intricately connected to the theme of the song or whatever, but I don't know, I thought these were just kind of thrown on there. Especially the Scrabble one, it just like, it's not a very appealing melody, but it was a very minimalist beat. There's barely anything going on. It's pretty much just the small bit of drums that's in it, the vocal sample, and then these kind of loose guitar notes in the back. And I get that the point is kind of to just like slow everything down and let Boldy just kind of go. And it does put a better focus on his lyrics. But if you're gonna have only like 3 or 4 elements to your song, then they've gotta really stand out. And in this case, I don't know. I tried, but every time I listen to it, I'm just like, eh. But on the lyrical front, the whole Scrabble thing is, I think, brilliant. I think my favorite one was Ducking the Alphabet Boys Like We're Playing Scrabble. I like that one a lot, but I mean, all of the different ones are good. The one where he's like, the judge is going to give you so many letters that it looks like you're playing Scrabble. Good stuff. Like, just classic Boldy, just being witty and whatnot. Town and Country was a highlight. Town and Country was really good. The rhymes within it, in verse 2, the rhymes specifically, the rhyming, was really well done, really complex. I really like that. He had a really strong verse there. The sample just complimented him well. That is definitely one of the highlights on the album. Straight and Tall is a great intro. It's one of my favorite beats and songs on the album. And I haven't heard a lot of samples using the instruments in this one before. In the left ear, you've got these castanets kind of going. In the right ear, there's these shakers. And this soul sample was used really well. The melody was really good, and he let it kind of ring out for a little bit, and then you got sax in the back. Everything was working really well, but there was also kind of like two halves to the beat. You had the vocal and sax part, and then it kind of transitioned over into this kind of like ringing out of like the castanets and the shaker. It was just done really well. And I think my favorite line from that was, "This heartbreak hotel and I'm the hit man. Told my teacher when I grew up I was going to be the brick man." Boldy is just, he makes such dark topics just so comical, and he just says it like it's nothing. It's just absolutely hilarious. The only track that I haven't covered was Stuck in Traffic, which that was another one that didn't entirely work for me. Again, that's one of the ones that I felt like the vocal sample was kind of just thrown on there, but there was a couple of cool lyrical moments that I really liked. Like this one right here. He says, "All I hear is Siri giving me directions through the townway down in Missouri. I know the bureau know we the reason for your mural, investigating me for bodies, and I'm talking plural, ducking New York undercovers, and now Miami Vice." He paints this really, just like these kind of like mini stories, these mini pictures, like line where he says, "All I hear is Siri giving me directions through the townway down in Missouri." That line itself has so many implications, because I'm like, he's normally operating in Detroit, but in this album, he's all over the place. He's down in Missouri. There's this little skit where he's talking about he's down in Canada. You've got the line that WAP says where, you know, they're known in 50 states for moving weight across the state lines. Like, he's just got a really good scope on this album of just how much dope he's selling, how much crack he's selling. And, you know, I mean, look, he tells the story effectively. Coming away from this album, though, the one thing that I will say, it kind of reinforced my feelings on Boldy, and it's this weird thing where it's like, he's one of my favorite rappers. He's really good, but he almost kind of frustrates me at times, because it's like, sometimes I feel like he's punching below his weight, and that's not an insult, because I think Boldy has a classic rap album in him. I mean, I personally already think that Manger on McNichols is like a masterpiece classic album, but I'm talking like a classic album outside of the underground sense, like an album that will be talked about for 10, 20, 30 years. Like, from what I've seen from this guy, what I've seen on Manger McNichols, what I've seen on Bo Jackson, Price of Tea in China, this album, he's got something, like, it's right there. I feel like albums like this, in Bo Jackson and Price of Tea in China, I think like they're at like a 9, and I think Manger McNichols is on a 10. And I think if he could do that again with maybe a bit more commercial advertising backing, now that he's a little bit bigger, maybe it's a little bit more accessible than Manger on McNichols, because that was pretty much just a straight up like avant-garde jazz album, he could really drop a classic. And it's clear from the writing on McNichols that he can rap about more than just selling crack, which is kind of what I want from him, because he can write some really, really interesting stories. He, you know, on that album, he was talking about, you know, his struggles with addiction and mental health and all of these different things, but it was really personal, it was really heartfelt. And as good as he is at the crack rap, and as entertaining as it is, I'm like, I already know that you can do this so well, but I think you could weave it all together like you did on McNichols. Like, it's almost like in his discography, post like 2019, because like I have to go back and listen to some of his older stuff, but I'm talking like once he really came onto the map with The Alchemist, it's like you've got all of these projects and a few, and you know, all the major projects and a few EPs in between, right? And then I feel like McNichols is the outlier, where it's like he's talking about way more than just the normal trapping, selling. All of that is still very much in there, because that is his life, but he's also talking about his family, and he's also talking about how drugs have affected the community around him, the city of Detroit, just all, like, it's all playing off of each other. And I think that it makes all the elements of it stronger, because like, don't get me wrong, like I said, I love this album. I love the crack rap. He's doing it so well. I'm not saying don't take that away, because it's what makes him who he is. Like, he's one of the best at that, just like Pusha T is, just like Griselda is, right? But with him, I see something so, like, the potential is there. And if he just really honed in, I think he could drop an absolute classic. And so that's what I want to see from him. I would love to see him kind of expand or kind of go in a bit more in other directions, because I really think he's got a great classic record in him. But yeah, I mean, that's my review of Fair Exchange No Robbery. I thought it was a really good album. I would probably give it a 7.5, maybe an 8. Yeah, I'll give it an 8. I mean, it's a really good album. I think I'm so used to the greatness of just like rap right now that it's like I don't want to shortchange the fact that like this is some really good stuff. There's some, I mean, you pick any song and you can find a quotable, you can find a really clever line. And yeah, I mean, Boldy, he's doing his thing, like I said, but I want to see more. I want to see more. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Drop your thoughts in the comments specifically. Like, I just want to talk about this album. It's another album from an artist that I think needs more recognition. He's gotten some more respect, but like he needs more because he's doing some really good things. And yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the Freddie Gibbs album, and then believe it's in 2 weeks the Tana Talk 4 album comes out by Benny the Butcher. Also, Arctic Monkeys The Car is dropping, so I am definitely going to be reviewing that. I've also got some MBTI stuff coming out. I'm going to be talking about all things ENFP. I've got a couple movie reviews that I'm working on. It's going to be a lot dropping, so I'm going to be covering a lot of different topics. So music reviews, movies, MBTI personality stuff, and whatever else I feel like doing. But yeah, until next time, thanks for watching. This is Unknown Reviews. Bye. I'm just thinking about how I'm still just thinking about how I will go through my suburban day listening to this album, thinking that like I'm hustling when I'm just walking to class, getting ready to study for an exam, or working out in my middle class house. It's funny. Anyways, bye.